Welcome back to my channel. I'm Megan. If this is your first time stopping by, then welcome. It is January 2023. I actually can't believe it. Like, that is so wild that we're in 2023. We've had so many years of COVID, but the best thing about January has to be the Australian Open. I am obsessed with tennis. I play tennis, I watch tennis, but when the Oz Open comes around, it always reminds me that I still don't have a tennis skirt that fits me properly. So I've tried on tens of tennis skirts, 100 tennis skirts. They're always too loose on the waist, the shorts are generally too tight, and the skirt might be a little bit long. I have a bigger butt, bigger hips, and a bigger bootay, and then a smaller waist, which just seems to be not how they are made. So whenever I try on tennis skirts, I find them quite ill-fitting, and they never really look right. So recently I tried on about 10 tennis skirts and found one that fit pretty well. So I've taken that skirt and drawn up a pattern from that, and I've altered the measurements slightly so that the waistband is a bit tighter and the shorts are a bit longer because they were clinging to a really weird part of my legs. It just is like, why? Like, if you're making this for taller people, because I'm pretty short, then why are the shorts so small? Like, why are the shorts literally riding up? If you would like to see how I went making this tennis skirt / tennis skort, then stick around. Firstly, I went and picked out my fabric. So I used another skirt. I ordered a tennis skirt. It came, didn't quite fit, but almost did. So I wrote down some alterations that I need. And then I drew up each piece. It's really hard to see. Each piece of the tennis skirt. So I'm going to trace this onto some butcher's paper, add my allowances, and make the changes from what I've written down in my phone. So I'm going to start by cutting out the pieces I traced using the other tennis skirt. Now I have all my traced pattern pieces cut out, which I'll now transfer onto some butcher's paper. So I've written down that I want the shorts to be longer by 6 centimeters. So I'm just adding this to the bottom of my shorts before I add my seam allowances. I've also written down that I wanted my waist to be smaller by 6 centimeters the whole way around. So I'm going to take 1.5 off the two front sides to make 3 centimeters, and then 1.5 off the back as well to make 6. And now I'm adding a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, 3 centimeter seam allowance to the bottom so that I can fold it over and then fold it over again when I do the hem. I'm cutting out my tennis band because this will be, so the top band of the skirt. I'll cut this on the fold, and I'm going to add allowances separately because it will be sewn to the rest of the skirt rather than being a continuation of the same front and back pieces. And now I am cutting out my pattern pieces. So I've finished cutting out my pattern pieces. I have material for the tennis skirt and then material for the tennis shorts underneath. Both have some elastane in them. There's definitely, the one for the tennis skirt definitely has less. So now I'm tracing out my skirt pattern pieces. And I'm cutting them out. Next, I'm tracing my pattern pieces onto their respective materials and cutting them out. Okay, so I've changed my mind slightly. I think that the material I'm using for the tennis skirt, that is not stretchy enough, and I think because I thought I would make the band shorter to fit my waist, that will actually be far too tight and probably won't go over my hips. So I'm going to use the material on the band that I'm using for the shorts and take it back to where I originally wanted it. So make it plus 1.5 and plus 1.5 on both sides. So now I'm just adding on my 1.5 centimeters, or adding it back on. Now I am drawing the new 1.5 centimeter addition on, and then I am very carefully trying to cut this out. I've pinned the material together underneath, so try and make sure it's as accurate as possible. Okay, quick disclaimer for you. The next 2 minutes are me massively failing at making the shorts that I promised you. I didn't want to leave it out and make it seem like I'd done alright or pretty well throughout, because I absolutely didn't. Feel free to skip ahead. I'll put a timestamp on the screen to make sure you know where to skip forward to, unless you would like to sit through the fail of the shorts with me, which of course you are welcome to. I promise it does improve after that. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to overlock my shorts together and then add an additional stitch. So I'm just pinning them up and measuring 1.5 centimeters. So yeah, just pinning up my shorts together because I want to do the shorts first and then attach them to the skirt, pin all of the band, and then sew it up. That is my plan of attack. I'm visiting my parents at the moment, and my mum very kindly let me use her overlocker for this. Now, whilst I'm overlocking, I'm going to overlock the hem of the shorts as well, which I'll eventually fold and just do a straight stitch. Now I'm pinning up the little kite shape, which is at the bottom of the shorts. Wow, that was a really bad pin. I might have to unpick some of that. There's a lot of trial and error in these shorts. Now I'm pinning up the sides of the shorts, so I'm going to attach all the short pieces and then tackle the bottom of the shorts, which I'll need to stretch to stitch, and also attach that little kite piece, which is going to be tricky. So now I'm sewing up around the bottom of my shorts, and to make sure they fit on me, I'm stretching out the material. Now I'm pinning where I roughly need to sew to add on this little kite piece. Okay, update for you. This is not the look I was going for with these shorts. Yeah, not, oh, how you going there? Like, look at the little, there's like a little gap. This has not been a good first attempt. I might just do a lining with this material so that there's going to be the aesthetic of having a tennis skirt, but it won't be an actual tennis skort because, like, what are those? Okay, new plan. So because I don't have enough of the lining I was using for the shorts, because I used it on the shorts, I'm going to use this material, the same one that I'm using for the actual skirt that's on the outside, and I'll just make it 1.5 or 2 or something shorter on the bottom, and I'll add a seam allowance just here on the side so that I can join it underneath. So it will just be from here to here with a 1.5 seam allowance added on, and then just a little bit shorter, and I really hope that will bring me some more success. But who knows? It's just, I'm so far down the rabbit hole now. So now I am tracing out the same pattern, just removing 1.5 centimeters so that the lining will be a little bit shorter, and then adding 1.5 and 1.5 onto the left and right sides so that I have a seam allowance. Who knew I'd be making pattern pieces this late in the game? Not me. Right, it's not getting any easier. Now I am tracing this lining piece onto my stretchy outer skirt material. Do you know what? I'm starting to think I should have done it this way the whole time and made it a bit easier, but it is kind of hard to play proper tennis, like the way I play it, because I'm obviously like semi-pro, in a tennis skirt where you can actually flash people. Okay, I have solved the lack of fabric issue, which probably seemed like a pretty obvious solve. I probably shouldn't be using those scissors. Seemed like an obvious solve, but wasn't obvious to me until now. I am just going to do 2 panels for the back so that there's no weird stitch quilting happening, and I'll just join the pieces at the back and make it 2 panels rather than 1 full piece. Now I'm pinning up my 2 back pieces. Right, I'm sewing her up. Let's do it. Oh shoot, what have I done? God, with the long nails again, like it's not. Not a vibe for this. All right, now we're cooking. So I am pinning front piece, the back piece of the lining with a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance, which I will then sew, and then all my lining skirt will be 1 piece. All right, now we're cooking. The lining's good. Okay, so I'm just gonna hem up my lining skirt by 1 centimeter instead of 1.5 because I'm worried that 1.5 will make it just a little bit too short. Also, I'm having problems gripping the pins again because of my nails. Like, why? They look so nice, but they are just so impractical. Now I'm pinning up my front and back outer skirt pieces, which I'll then press at the same time I press the lining on the hem just to make it easier to sew it up. All right, now I am sewing up my outer pieces of the skirt where the hem is, and then I will do the lining. I'm actually running out of thread. Here, I'll show you. Is she gonna make it? I don't know. Oh, this tennis skirt just continues to be a fail. Just run out of thread. Switched over, and I've almost gotten to the end. This is how much I have left. Can I do it? She's done it. Just. At least there's no waste though. Right, now I am joining my band. So doing the band of the skirt, which I'll then attach to my skirt pieces and sew all around the top. Okay, so I've just been pinning up the pieces of the skirt together because I want them to do this like wrap around kind of look. I have noticed that if I continue this out, it drops down too far, and that will be further than the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance for the band. So I'm going to take each side in by maybe 3 centimeters and just change the curve of the inner wraparound pieces a little bit, and that should be good, I hope. Okay, so I've pinned up around my skirt, and I'm just going to make sure that as I'm stitching, I'm stretching it out, just because otherwise I won't be able to get the skirt on. Okay, so the outside pieces of the skirt and the inside lining has been sewn onto the band. I still need to sew up the inside and create a pocket for my elastic, which I'll thread through and then stitch it up at the end, I'm actually totally out of lighter thread. And because I don't want it to be dark on the outside, I'm going to see how I go with some of my super strong glue just until I can then stitch it. I've got some momentum up, so I don't really want to stop at this stage because I just have to close up the band, thread the elastic through, and then just sew up the pocket to go. I've also just put a couple of pins where I want to keep a gap to make the pocket and thread through my elastic, just so I don't accidentally glue that down at the end. All right, last piece of the puzzle. Well, almost, and then I have to iron on my motifs. Just measured up my waist, so I'm going to thread it through and then stitch them up at the end. And now I'm just sewing up the elastic that I just threaded. Right, time to iron the M's on. I want it to be a double M, but I need it to be flat, so I need to like cut some off. This is probably not the way to do this. So, I wonder if it will come like unthreaded. We shall see. Okay, I cut them up a little bit. Part of it's fraying, so I tried to glue down a little bit. I think it's fine. I just want it to look good. This is going to be tricky. I'm using a hanky. Oh, risky when you can't see it anymore. I think I have to press for like 10 to, oh my god, I'm gonna get about 10 to 15 seconds. I'm not sure it's alright. Is that working? Is that working? Oh yeah, that's working. Here's how the Meg MacArthur motif turned out. I'm so happy with that. Oh my god. Just don't look too closely because there's a tiny little bit of fraying, but on the whole, super happy.